In 1975, my parents fled Vietnam as refugees from the war. They had 4 kids, ages 7 and under, and my mother was pregnant. They crammed onto boats and planes to make their way across the world, and my father was separated from the rest of them at length. By some miracle, they all make it in one piece to America, and they eventually settle in Alexandria, Virginia. And with a sponsor that provided them with immeasurable assistance, plenty of luck, and plenty of hard work and perseverance, they build a whole new life for themselves in America after leaving everything behind in their homeland. It is a trauma and a hardship that I literally cannot fathom. And I don't know what my parents' specific dreams were for themselves and their family, but I would guess that it did not involve near death, losing their loved ones to war, and their families being torn apart. Now, growing up, my parents never really spoke to me except to scold me. I was very clear on what was expected of me. Obey them implicitly without question. Study hard, get good grades. Friends and social life were frivolous, not allowed. Complete all duties around the house as assigned without complaint. Really do anything and everything without complaint. And then further down the line, marry a Vietnamese man with a good job and have babies. So my parents' disappointment in me and who I was started pretty immediately. From fighting with them over not wearing dresses as a little girl because I hated them, to getting subpar grades in school because I was so unhappy, and I'm pretty sure had ADD that I did not know how to handle. But none of that compares to the day when I show up to their house in 2006 to tell them I'm gay, which they already knew, but no one ever talked about. So I'm 24. I show up to their huge house in Alexandria that they poured so much blood, sweat, and tears into making possible for themselves, to completely dash arguably the biggest dream they have for me, or at least the one dream that they probably hoped the most I wouldn't fuck up. I arrive, my big brother is there who lives with them, and he tells me that my parents are actually out for the night and won't be back until late. Of course they are, just my luck. And when he sees how upset I am, he says, "Why? What's up?" Now, I'd gone over there that night with every intention of leaving my parents' dreams for me in shambles, like to make their nightmare come true. It's like I'm hyped up for a big fight. So I blurt out, I wanted to tell them I'm gay. And that is how I come out to my big brother. But again, he already knew. And he doesn't skip a beat. He just says, "Oh, well, why now?" But bro, if not now, then when? So the next day, I come back. This time, my parents are there. And I didn't ask him to, but my big brother takes it upon himself to sit in on this conversation. So mom and dad are on the couch. I'm across from them. Brother's in the corner in between us. And because I never talked to my parents about anything substantive, important, or serious, me initiating this conversation myself is like one of the biggest things I've ever done. I gotta psych myself up. So I think of my friends who know exactly where I am and what I'm doing at that moment, and how they love me and are proud of me. I use that as strength. I remind myself that if my parents disown me or kick me out, at least I don't rely on them for financial support. My heart is beating so fast in my throat. And when it comes time to open my mouth and push air out of my lungs to make words out loud, what comes out in a shaky voice is, "Mom, Dad, I think you know this or at least suspect it, but I'm gay." I stare at them in horror and anticipation. And then my mom starts giggling. And she turns to my dad and she says, "What'd she say? She say she am gay?" Oh no. Talk about dashing my mom's dreams in a whole new way. I'm in fact the opposite of engaged. But I actually didn't even have to respond because my dad turns to her and says, "She said she's gay." Thanks, Dad. And once it all finally sinks in and we're all on the same page, my parents and I both certainly wish we were reading different books. My dad says, "Well, in our country, we don't have this, but here you do. So, okay." My mom says, "I don't believe I born you and you like this." Hey, I can't believe you born me and you like this. So I'm sitting here for this terrible conversation where I'm crying and fielding comments like that. And my big brother, this whole time, is calm and steady and reaching his hand out like a hockey goalie, catching these things that are flying out of my parents' mouths and handling them as best he can. At one point, he says, "You know, Mom, that dream you have for Jennifer to get married, have kids, she can still do that. This doesn't change that." My mom thought that was the most ridiculous thing she had ever heard. She says, "No, I never see that." My brother, exasperated, says, "Oh, I'll find you a movie." Now, I guess my brother wasn't very familiar with LGBTQ cinema in 2006. He must have missed Brokeback Mountain the year before, because I'm pretty sure he would have had a hard time finding a movie that depicted two women with children where at least one of them did not meet some kind of tragic end, if he found one at all. But at any rate, my brother is right. And I did happen to have that same dream for myself that my mother had for me, just with a woman instead of a man, which I realized to her is not even close to the same dream. And I know that if she had known it to be a possibility, she still would not have dreamed it for me. But the thing is, she didn't know it was a possibility. Me having a child with another woman is not something she could have ever fathomed, whether I'd grown up in Vietnam or America. Well, it turns out my dear brother didn't need to find a movie, because in 2010, after a 6-year romantic drought, I meet the love of my life. And then in 2013, after a year of actively trying, that included a miscarriage, my wife gives birth to our son. And even once it's all finally happening, real life, not even a movie, my mother's poor brain cannot compute. My best friend gets us a toddler-sized t-shirt that says, "I heart my two moms" on it. And when my wife and I put it on our actual human child baby, my mother looks at him and says, "Two mom? Why two mom?" Listen, I got in trouble all my life for being sassy to my mom, but what else could I say in that moment besides, because he has two moms? So I know that I did not make my mother's dreams for me come true, but she does love us. She treats my wife like a daughter-in-law. She treats my son like a grandkid. And when we visit my parents in Alexandria, they let us have their bedroom because it's bigger. And the thing is, I get to live my dreams come true for myself every day that I spend with my wife and son. I always tell them I love them big. And I hope that when my son forms his own dreams beyond his current 6-year-old ones of learning how to code so he can make mods in Minecraft and learning how to use a crossbow, he forms dreams for himself that are far beyond what I can imagine.
Oh, wonderful, Jennifer. Thank you. Thank you so much.